and welcome back to the meeting here in Lacey, Washington with me and myself and Mr. Pat Hockaday with truckersunited.org. And we want to get a little bit into ELDs, these electronic logging devices that are put inside these particular semis. Basically, in my opinion, EOBRs or ELDs or whatever you want to call them, they're a management tool. They're basically instilled into these particular trucks to babysit as well as micromanage the driver's performance, the time, and what they're up to and where they're at. So Mr. Hockaday definitely once got something to say in reference to these ELDs. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Hockaday and let him tell you folks what's on his mind.
Little Fred's giving me a hard time. Back in the late 80s and into the 90s, we had Qualcomms. Drivers talked about, oh no, they're going to be tracking us, this, that, and the other, tracking our every move, da da da. You know what? We should listen to those drivers, but we ignored them. They were indeed tracking our every move. This means that the carriers that had the Qualcomms back in the early 90s were able to, hush boys, hush. Two of them. The drivers back in the early 90s, the carriers had the power back then to make them run legal 100%. Simply by the information the carriers had off of their Qualcomm. Didn't happen. Of course it didn't happen. That would cost them money. Somewhere in the mid-90s, the FMCSA, DOT, whoever, ICC, whoever the hell it was running things back then, was doing a logbook audit. And I'm making this up just to make a point. Well, looky here. These logbooks, they passed with flying colors. Well, wait a minute. 12 o'clock and, oh, looks like GPS coordinates. Well, hell, he was in freaking Egypt. He wasn't in Denver like the logbook says. Let's look at this closer. Look, we got all these GPS coordinates. Busted. The management tool that the carrier had to make them money, the management tool the carrier had that let you run illegally, the carrier let you run illegally. They knew full good and well you was doing what she's doing. Busted. $500,000 please, Mr. Carrier. But if you'll put this ELD stuff in your truck, we'll drop it down. The FMCSA has been coercing carriers into putting E-Logs into their trucks since what? 1999, 1998, 1995. Now they got so many trucks with E-Logs in there, they was able to pass this ELD mandate. ELD, electronic logging device, not an E-Log. Drivers today think that because they're logging their logbook on a computer, they're running legal. Just like back in the day, we didn't think they was tracking our every move. Alright? You are using an E-Log today. Well, now because of the mandate, there might be a few ELDs in use. But we got 2 more years, December 17, before it has to be in use. You know as good as I do that if that E-Log doesn't do a change of duty status, if you're within a 3-mile radius, or if you're not going over 5 miles an hour, or however these people got this E-Log set up, you know as well as I do, or should know, that's not letter of the law. You're cheating that E-Log. Now, government mandated ELD, do you really believe that ELD, government mandated, MAP 21, Congress, all this loop-de-doo-wah? You really think that's going to be programmed with anything less than letter of the law? Better think about it. I was talking to OOIDA 2 or 3 days after the new ruling came out, 500 pages long now, and I'm asking them, is there any variance, any ability to vary a little bit off of letter of the law? They don't see any. Hadn't seen any at that time. I'm pretty much going to bet you it ain't in there. Now, I'll give you an example. Many of us say, oh, you got to manage your time. Got to use your time right. Well, I know what that means. I pull into the receiver Tuesday night, get my 10-hour break. Wednesday morning, I get up, I go check in. Okay, driver, put it in dock 5. I get in my truck, I start my truck. I leave the parking spot. I move to dock 5. I back into dock 5. There ain't no variance. The truck moved. Plugged into your ECM. The computer knows the truck moved. You think your 14-hour clock didn't start the minute you left that parking place? Well, that's the way I truly believe this is going to work. So all of us that have been living at shippers and receivers so that we don't have to start our logbook at the truck stop 5 miles down the road, we're in for a rude awakening. Another point I want to make about the ELD mandate, the new ruling. 2 years. You have 2 years to put the ELD into service, unless you have an existing E-Log program in place. If you have an existing E-Log program in place, guess what? You got 4 years. 2 years from the time the ruling came through. That's going to put it December of 2017. If you have an E-Log in place, it gives you till December of 19 before you have to have what I predict will be letter of the law, government mandated electronic logging devices. We'll talk about unfair competition. Unfair? Wait a minute. These people who didn't have an E-Log in place before December 17th, 2015, now have to have a letter of the law, ELD in place, that they can't cheat, but the big carriers that have an E-Log system in place, they can continue cheating their E-Logs.
That's right.
And the drivers think they're doing it all legal because the computer wouldn't let me break the law.
But let me ask you a question, Pat. How does the E-Log benefit the professional driver, and what's the solution?
Well, I think there are benefits, but not under the current way drivers are paid. If they want 100% compliance and legal, then I think they need to pay for it. And a lot of drivers are saying, well, wait a minute, detention pay at the loading docks. Well, what about detention pay when you sat 4 hours waiting for them to figure out where you're supposed to go next?
That's right.
What about 24 hours when they say, okay, driver, leave here, drive 60 miles down the road, and load day after tomorrow? Isn't that detention time?
Yep.
Aren't you following direction if you're an employee driver? Shouldn't you be paid for that?
That's right.
If you want letter of the law, and I believe that's what these ELDs are forcing upon us, then somebody needs to pay for it. It shouldn't cost you money. It shouldn't cost me money because I'm doing what they want me to do.
That's right.
If they want me to do it, they need to pay me to do it. OOIDA's fighting the ELD mandate. I back them 100%. I don't think, even if OOIDA beats it in court, we're going to keep them out of the trucks. I think that FMCSA is going to do to us drivers just like they did to all these carriers over the last 10 or 15 years. And they're going to push the issue. Pull it around your back, driver. We're going to do an inspection on you. You ain't got no E-Log.
That's right.
I don't know. Is that harassment? Can you document it? Can you take them to court harassing you? Well, that's money. You better have somebody to hire them lawyers.
That's right. I mean, even though these ELDs are only management tools, they're not going to prevent accidents. They're not going to prevent fatalities. They're still going to happen. It depends on the driver behind the wheel. More training obviously needs to be explored and needs to be, instilled back into the trucking industry, instead of just pumping these guys through these trucking schools and getting them out there. ELDs, in my opinion, are not going to keep the accidents and the fatalities from happening.
You let this go through, and what next?
That's right.
Are they going to want you to wear a camera in your forehead 24 hours a day so they can make sure you're not on the loading dock?
Yep.
What next? Enough's enough. I can't see that we're going to get out of this ELD stuff. If we're going to have this junk, we need to make it work for us.
That's right. That's right. So what do you recommend, Pat? How do we make the electronic logging device work for us to benefit us as a professional driver, losing all this particular time, not being compensated for the wasted time that
if an employee driver is paid 24/7 while being available, while fulfilling the job duties as prescribed in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, while following company policy, I'm going on, then obviously that driver's at work and needs to be paid for being at work.
That's right.
At work. You got to be at work in order to work. Once the driver's paid, once they're paying for this that they want, you know what? Are they going to retract some of this? Are they going to forget about speed limiters that's coming down the road at us? There's no telling. But as long as we're giving it to them for free, as long as they're not paying for the services they want, required, they have to have our services. Until they have automated trucks on the road, I guess.
Oh, that ain't going to happen.
It's in our hands. We need to do something to make these things pay the employee drivers for the work they're doing, the time they spend at work, and then as an owner-operator, as independents out there, hopefully we'll see the rates come up to support the labor costs that are now being provided for free. Once we start paying those labor costs, I think it'll reflect in freight rates.
That's right.
And then that benefits those of you who are working off the spot market.
That's right, folks. You heard it here first, or probably you've probably heard it a million times. It's the same old story. We have the ability to change the industry. As a professional truck driver, we have the ability to change the industry, but we have to speak our mind. We have to pick up the phone. We have to make phone calls. Call the carrier.
We need to work within the system.
And the system's
the legal
in place.
system.
Exactly.
We got to stop saying, the government, blah, 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 the regulations. We got to stop running outlaw, and we follow their example. The ATA, the TCA, the Alliance for the Security and Safety of Truckers, Drivers, whatever.
That's right.
They work the system. They have lobbyists in place. They have realistic proposals in place. Understandable, coherent, logical, rational proposals in place to push their agenda forward. And all we got is, they can't tell me what day. Well, they can.
Yep.
They can. It's for the safety of the people.
That's right.
Let's make it safe for the people. Let's give them what they want at a price.
That's right. Pat, let me ask you a question. Trucking industry, we've been driving trucks, and the trucking industry has a long history and a tradition for over 100 years. What organization out there that is focused 100% on helping professional drivers and the things that they can accomplish within the trucking industry?
Well, Ernie's obviously steering me towards OOIDA. Owner, operator, independents, drivers. See, OOIDA was originally owner, operator, and independent drivers. Independent drivers. Two groups, owner, operators, independent drivers. As the years have gone by, we're not going to change our name. It's a good name. It works. But there are more drivers out there than just owner-operators, independent drivers. What OOIDA has explained to me, owner-operator, independents, drivers, all other drivers. 40 years now, 1972, I believe. You don't have to look too far to see what they've done, see what laws they fought against. They're fighting against the ELDs right now.
Yeah.
Got a petition about speed limiters up right now. You can go to their website, OOIDA.com. You can look at the history of the court battles they won.
Yeah.
We've got lobbyists in D.C., OOIDA. It costs money. It ain't free.
That's right.
$45 a year membership. That's worth it to have lobbyists in D.C.
It sure is.
You think that office in D.C. is free? That's $high rent, people. Somebody's got to pay the bill.
That's right.
So, I'm an OOIDA member.
I'm a new OOIDA member. Just signed up, a couple days ago?
I don't know. I told you a week ago to sign up. I was going to pay for it. So,
I appreciate it, Pat. Yeah, there's a handful of organizations that are truly fighting for our behalf, and OOIDA's the biggest one that has the resources and the ability. But come on, folks, realistically, there's a lot of big carriers out there that got really deep bank accounts and deep pockets. So
OOIDA is pennies fighting against dollars.
That's right.
Run numbers just based on the ATA minimum membership of $450 a year, 37,000 members. It's $16 million. OOIDA, 150,000 members, $45 a year. That's about $6,000. They got the money, and $450 a year minimum. You know that they've got a membership level for shippers and receivers. Shippers and receivers are part of the ATA.
Yep.
You know, the people that you guys want to pay you detention pay. All right. We've got to look at this realistically. We're not even going to talk about the TCA and the Alliance. But we can do this. We can pull our pennies together, and we can put up a heck of a fight through OOIDA.
That's right.
We can also work outside of OOIDA. OOIDA is limited in what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
They're a non-profit. They can shut down. Outside of OOIDA, we can do things
That's right.
OOIDA can't do.
Yeah. So I recommend you folks go to the OOIDA website, sign up, and let's build the brotherhood a lot bigger than what it is right now.
All right. Snowing, Ernie. So calling me past, calling me.
Yeah, man. You got to be careful out there, bro. I mean, it's tough out there. It's a tough industry. A lot of people have come and gone within this industry. I mean,
come and gone. Jerry Fritz and I were talking the other day. He was throwing some numbers at me.
That's a great story.
Telling me that there's an average of 2 drivers a day don't go home. Telling me that trucking, the numbers he's looking at is one of the statistically most dangerous jobs out here.
It is a dangerous job.
I'm trying to kind of keep this in perspective because I don't know what numbers Jerry's using, but you know Jerry Fritz, he's got all the reports and he's got everything looking at it close. So when Jerry tells me that there's 725 or 730 drivers a year dying while being out on the road,
Yeah.
I believe him.
Yeah. Well, this is a wonderful meeting. I mean, it really was. I learned a lot, especially. I mean, I'm still learning every single day. But one thing that I truly like to do is talk to veteran drivers that's been out here much longer than I have, and I try to pick their brain and learn as much as I can, because that's going to make me more successful in my particular daily journey within the trucking industry. And I really do appreciate Pat Hockaday for stopping by and meeting me today. I mean, my truck's broke down. Brand new truck. I just bought it. Been having so many issues with it last couple of weeks. But thank you, Pat. I really do appreciate it. I mean, this was wonderful. Finally got a chance to meet both of his little dogs here. What's their names, Fred?
That's Fred and Bart.
Fred and Bart.
Oh, they looking at now. We got them calmed down over yonder.
Yeah, Fred and Bart. But truckers sitting down and having wonderful meetings like this over coffee. I mean, it's just, it's priceless. It's priceless.
We got to start
working together. Working together. Truckers working together. Communicating more. Social media. I mean, we can reach hundreds of thousands of drivers in 5 minutes, you know. So, friend as many truckers as you can. Get the word out there. I mean, come on. There's a lot of regulations that are being pushed down our throats. Now, don't get me wrong. Regulations are a good thing. But over-regulating is a bad thing. We got to keep the highway safe, that's for sure. Nobody's perfect. I mean, there's
I still say it's real easy to throw regulations out there when you ain't got to pay the price for that regulation.
That's right.
Somebody else has got to carry the burden.
That's right.
Turn it around. They want me to run 100 miles a day. Okay, 100 miles a day, as long as my truck's putting $700 a day in the bank. I'm good with the $100 a day.
Pat, let me ask you a question. Let's get into if you log it like you do it. Every trucking company preaches, log it like you do it. Log it like you do it. What would happen if we logged it like we do it?
Under the current pay structure, drivers could not be convinced to log it like we do it. Legal, 395.2. Legal definition, log it legal. You gotta read it.
Yeah.
Waiting for dispatch. Waiting for dispatch. Legally logged on duty, not driving. Now, can you imagine all this that you need to legally log on duty, not driving, and not getting paid for it? You would run out of hours. You wouldn't be able to run down the road to get your piecework pay. TCA has an article out. Dry box, dry van drivers averaging 30 to 33 hours a week that they're not being paid for that should be legally logged on duty, not driving. Refrigerated, I believe, was 34, 35, 36 hours a week that they're not logging. Yet these rules are supposed to make us be legal and be safe. Comes at a price. You want that driver to log that time, that driver needs to be putting money in his pocket for doing so. You want it, you need to pay for it. Best way I can describe it. ELDs, you want this stuff that gives us a tool. It's all on the computer. I left home Saturday morning. 2 weeks later I got back home. I was at work 16 days times 24 hours a day times my base level, my level of pay. Where's my money, baby?
Yep.
Pay me. Not my problem you didn't get your 70 hours. That's your problem. You're the boss. You're supposed to be managing me. That's what you got your ELD for.
Yep.
Micromanage my butt.
That's right.
So, what are we going to do?
Log it the way you do it, folks.
I can't see we can do that yet. Keep doing the good job you're doing.
Yeah.
And let's work on trying to get the money right so that you can be 100% legal and compliant.
That's right.
Because you are getting paid for that. A lot of work to be done here, people.
A lot of work.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, folks. Y'all take care.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bye.
Drivers, how many of you can afford $450 to be a member of the ATA? Not many of you, I'm sure. Does the ATA even have a category for drivers to be members? It makes you wonder. OOIDA represents us. We're pennies fighting against dollars. Their budget is so much larger than ours. Call and join today. Tell them Pat Hockaday sent you and get $10 off. We gotta work together.